I have just a little after 10 o'clock. Welcome to the Central Region Guest Speaker Series. We have two folks lined up to speak today. One of them hasn't joined us yet, so we'll go ahead and start with Scott Tessmer, who's our Chief Program Officer in Central Region, and he's going to give us a little overview of the Central Region FY22 AOP. So Scott, when you're ready, take it away.
All right, good morning, Central Region. Thank you very much for taking some time this morning. What I talk about today will be recorded. We'll be sharing it so people can watch it, and if they have questions, you can send folks to the roadmap FY22 page where this presentation is posted, and the video will be posted too. Objective today is just to do a recap of the fiscal year 22 roadmap and AOP goals. That included 26 roadmap goals and 5 supporting goals across our 3 roadmap themes for 2022. And explaining that, I guess the best thing to do is kind of give you a quick look here at what the deliverables were, a little bit more detail. Again, our 22 themes were the strengthening culture, enhancing consistency, and evolving service-focused science. We also did something different. With the COVID going on, we went to a one-year, one-off cadence to try to make this a manageable AOP, as the top priorities were really coming back into the office, the reintegration piece, and dealing with the uncertainty that was COVID. The key results, I should say, for 2022, again, we added the OHI results and culture part. We did inventory some underserved populations. Those are some of the big highlights that came out of it. And again, some of it was continuing with the collaboration with WPC, cross-training with WFO and CWSU staff, and the office playbooks. But again, that's the bottom line of what we really hit. I'm going to get in a little more detail here in just one second. So let me go through with the lessons learned and what was implemented in FY22 based on your feedback from the field. The field had been given a big survey. It had a lot of feedback coming in regarding how we can try to improve the roadmap, and at the same time try to balance that with the COVID limitations that were upon us. And with that, we went to the one-year cycle as mentioned. What did come out of this definitely is that 1 year is not enough. It definitely was not a strategic roadmap as in the past ones, so we're looking to going back to a longer-term linkage. We also again, try to retain flexibility, a greater level of flexibility with the COVID situation down to the office level. And nothing was overly specific at the regional level is what we really were trying to do. And we're going to go and extend that again in FY23, or actually in calendar year 23, when we release the new roadmap here, hopefully in the next few weeks. Whole region concept. Again, that's something that became much more organic with this, and we learned that. Things like remote meso-analysis program, we're just beginning of what we're seeing is a larger mutual aid between offices. And we tried to do something else based on the previous roadmap, which is implement the Roadmap Ambassador program. And one of the things we discovered this year is that it didn't seem to have any impact on feedback from offices, feedback on the roadmap. So that program was again tested to FY22. It was not going to be continued into 23. Again, sometimes we do things in a roadmap, we test them out, we work them out, and find that there's a better way. Again, continually evolving with what we're working on. So for 23, here's what you have to look forward to. We're adopting a more of a living document than a roadmap, hard and fast. We're looking to try to keep this evolved, keep it shorter. We're going to return to a 2 to 3 year update cadence. And I say update cadence vice rewrite cadence. We're hoping to make this a little more flexible and how it's presented vice starting and rebuilding the document, the traditional roadmap as we have in the past. Our roadmaps in the future are not going to include specific goals. You're going to learn a lot more about this, and we're changing how we track completions of events. We're introducing a whole new concept. You're going to hear more about this over the next month, and it's about OKRs, which are objectives and key results. It's going to be the focus of our roadmap. Telling people what is that objective, that strategic goal, and then giving folks a list of key results, which are really the measurement piece, often missing from parts of our roadmap. It was either done or not done, but this goal is to help folks see what the key results are so that actual actions, AOPs, can be developed at the local level, at the sub-regional level, and it's not just a kind of a top-down central region AOP. And as you're about to see with the central region, the AOP results are very headquarter-centric. So we're looking to get more buy-in and more participation from the field across the board, because many of these things are happening differently or in parallel across offices. So we want offices to have the same guidance we're working off of. Again, a quick look back at the themes and focused areas. That was right out of the roadmap that we published. You can always go back and take a look at that. That's on the FY22 roadmap site. And I'm going to jump right into the goals. So Jeff, I'm not sure how we can do this, but if people have questions and can put questions into a box as we go along, we can come back and answer some things. But again,
yeah, it's really however you want to approach it. If you want to take some questions in the middle, that'd be great. Otherwise, we can wait till the end, whatever works best.
Okay, you know what? Why don't I go through the slides and then we'll answer questions. So, but don't be afraid to write down your questions and come back with them. As I mentioned, there are 26. There were 26 specific roadmap goals, an additional 5 that are somewhat, in some cases, related to roadmap objectives. In other cases, they were portfolio objectives. So I'm going to kind of go through those and share the outcomes. That's what the goal here is, to share the outcomes of what happened. So our roadmap goal number 1, which correlates to our strengthening culture, was led by the SFD Division Chief, Brian Wallender. And it was to develop a plan to improve collaboration between the SFD at Central Region headquarters and field offices. The initiative that was taking place was to create some, with field's input, create some Google collaboration rooms, which allowed a higher level of collaboration and participation going on, and feedback to Central Region. And sub-regional ITO and ESA meetings were set up for September coming up in Boulder to try to, again, continue the discussion and the work between offices. A lot of successes in this and supporting, particularly with newer ESAs, newer ITOs, and also with vacancies happening and offices sharing information. The collaboration level went up greatly, as we noticed in 2022. The second goal, again, strengthening culture, about organizational health. Again, SFD Chief, develop a better plan to recognize and acknowledge top performers in OBS and CP portfolios. So the SF Division Chief worked with the senior management team and was able to work in an input system where Central Region participation at larger regional and national level programs, not necessarily just local programs, but those larger programs, making sure they got into the process for the awards of this year. So the feedback, again, has been very positive, that we were able to respond and recognize people who are going above and beyond outside the office, collaborating with other offices, working on regional and national teams and efforts. In the CP portfolio, this was not tied to any roadmap theme, but was to develop a plan to accomplish virtual oversight visits for IT security. That was completed. You can link onto the FY22 IT systems review master copy checklist, and the SFD IT folks are working with offices with this checklist and have it implemented. Our next 2 goals, it's not 1, 2, 3, it's 4 and 5, and these are actually ASD goals. Julie McElroy, Chief of ASD, led these up. Keep in mind, Julie became our ASD Chief mid-year, and also that there's been some vacancies and turnover in the ASD. They were able to accomplish one of their 2 goals for this year, which was ASD conducted SME presentations and has actually made that much more part of their regular admin calls, where they're talking about the systems, doing refresher training, but also brought in folks to address other issues that aren't as common, such as did a presentation on accident reporting specifically, give folks a refresher, and Jeff came in and did that for us. And then we also did a development beyond training, just a general training and personal development discussion. This presentation was actually part of what was a NOAA level training session done for budget analysts and administrative folks at the NOAA level. ASF portfolio, the other part was to develop a plan to accomplish oversight visits using a hybrid approach. Again, that was pushed back due to staffing changes and some of the other concerns with COVID. So they're hoping in FY23, that will be one of the deliverables, is to get back out and let people know what's happening. So one of our goals here has been delayed for till FY23. All right, strengthening culture goals 6 through 11. Again, goal 6, in that particular case, again, our goal is to use our 2022 OHI data. I want to emphasize the OHI data it's really our first big look. We had a 2015 where the data really didn't go many places. We had a short interim version of an OHI happen in 2017, trying to learn how we can do that. And the big lesson learned came in 2022. And with the end results of that, one thing that has happened is we had set goals in Central Region for each office to try to address some of the OHI concerns out of the data that was shared with offices. The data that was out there was revealing, and it actually helped National Weather Service headquarters develop some new goals, national level, and develop a whole new program, the national level one, called the Organizational Health Blueprint. That was actually an email sent out on January 5th that kicked off that program. I'll do a presentation in February, and there'll be some more presentations from the Central Region Culture team on how that'll be integrated into Central Region. But it basically took our goals and allowed us to use that, our goals to become national level. And at the same time, with reintegration happening, that became a primary focus across a majority of offices. So reintegration and communication were the primary input that we got from offices on what they were working on in 2022. But in 2023 and 2024, there's going to be a higher level, a national level tracking system, much more transparency and clarity on this one. And it, along with goal number 8, are being worked into, again, this Organizational Health Blueprint, which is just kicking off here, and with that email on January 5th. On the Organizational Health Diversity Program, my hat goes off to the Central Region DEIA team, the work group, I should say, the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Accessibility group. They went out and they reorganized and rebuilt the site that we have on our intranet. And I invite you to go out there and look at all the resources that are being shared with you. Specifically, they include some manager guidance and also the program manager guidance. So our local DEIA program managers have some expectations for them and resources, as well as the management teams in the office have some new resources that are identified, some much friendlier site. But to keep in mind, it's always evolving. And in particular, we have just redeveloped, or I should say the National Weather Service is just redeveloping the Diversity Management Council for the Weather Service. Their first meeting is happening today, and they'll be coming up with some new strategic objectives and other things that will be shared with you as we learn more. But we're in a great position because of the work of the DEI work group and making our information readily available to the field. Okay, additional goals. Again, goals 9, 10, and 11. Again, whole office concept, whole region concept type goals. Prioritize and enhance blue sky opportunities for lead forecasters. What actually had transformed out of this goal was the look at shift work and shift proposals and how we are able to allow lead forecasters greater opportunities. There is a national shift flexibility team that became an offshoot of part of this effort, and the national level Tiger teams. Additionally, MICs are working within each office looking for opportunities to maximize the opportunities that lead forecasters will have to look at greater blue sky. Additionally, I think many folks have heard of the National Shift Flexibility Team coming up and making some proposals that are being looked at and explored, such as a 6th lead forecaster. Again, national level from a regional level goal. It's been taken off and gotten traction at a much higher level than we'd expected. Other strengthening goals, create a mutual aid operations concept with criteria. One of the things that came out of this discussion was that with the coordination and collaboration that was happening with severe weather, that the RMA efforts and the snow squall efforts have been added for FY23. How the ROC is working in integration and help working that has been part of it. Again, we've created some guardrails, some documents to talk about how do we share information, not just for severe weather, but how do we do mutual aid in the absence of staffing, ASAs that are vacant positions, ETs, ITOs, all those positions when we have vacancies, when we have shortfalls, when we have a need for greater flexibility. This has all been explored, and the Central Plains MIC HIC community put together some guardrail documents and shared them out for folks to, on the management side, to do greater coordination in cases where mutual aid will benefit offices and operations. The next thing here is number 11, develop and implement a strategy for remotely located secondary service backup sites and update the service backup policy. A great learning experience for the team there. They have a draft supplement that they are now exploring more the technical side of it. Again, in Central Region, we are unique in that, well, I should say it's unique that not all of our offices are backed up in Central Region. We have offices that are working with Western Region and Eastern Region. So as we're trying to work out options and other options to continue supporting those other regions, along with how we internally support each other in the region with secondary backups and backup pairs. And those backup pairs, as I think you're aware of, would not necessarily be your neighbor, but to move secondary backup offices outside of the synoptic weather pattern so that we're not having an office backup at the same time it's experiencing the same weather. Goals, 12 through 20, these are the enhancing consistency goals. 12 through 13, again, you can see the information on your slide there. Again, these slides are all available on the Roadmap 22 website. And you can see the IDSS program style guide to improve consistency. That DSS package templates with the IDSS Builder 2.0. The templates are within the draft IDS style guide, FY23, it's expected implementation. Central Region's done their input, waiting for a national concurrence to move forward or direction to move forward specific down that range. Additionally, 13, implement the use of key messages. The guidance document is available on the link here on this outcome. The training is identified and is progressing for FY23. And the use of keyword messaging in Central Region Office, AFDs, that's actually been looked at and it's greatly improved even in 2022. So just again, the results sometimes aren't a document, it just shows up in, like this case, the forecast frequency of how terminology and key phrases are worded are meeting the objectives of the goal. Goal 14, develop proposals to improve hydraulic IDSS. Proposal's been submitted. We're working across this again. Anything we do, it's not just impacting Central Region, particularly in our hydro world, which hydro lines don't always follow CWA lines or regional boundaries, as you know. So there's a proposal out there, you can read it. It's being worked on at cross-regional levels, and we'll hopefully have more progress and possibility some implementation of some of the proposals that were developed as a part of that goal. Number 15, establishing the process to use the winter weather severity index to improve inter-office collaboration. This is a big effort, and one of those efforts that found out that WSSI was unsuitable for the headline decision making due to latency. WSI is based on the NDFD grids, which can't be produced until well after the grids are published. We kind of have how do we solve this problem? Because as WSSI is not going to be a solution, just technology with latency issues. Objective completed. Again, lesson learned. We learned another way not to build a light bulb, to quote Edison. And we'll look at future options. And again, this year's snow squall and some of the other remote analysis efforts that are going on and cross-office support are pushing us in a new direction, which will hopefully help us find answers to how do we establish the inter-office collaboration on a more regular basis, particularly for headlines. All right, Goal 16, Management Tools Initiative. This one is a big cross-regional effort, and the question becomes, how do we create options to facilitate and enable collaborative innovation from and among field offices? We got together, we've had several ideas, and we're prototyping a collaborative innovation marketplace. We're going to use either some volunteers or some lantern assignments here in FY23 to try to establish this marketplace where people can come in and share ideas, find people who are working on similar products and similar solutions, whether it be a GIS solution, whether it be some other ideas, but to work on them with folks in cross offices and not work in competition between what product's going to work, but to work in how do we take the best ideas and come up with the best cross office collaborative solutions. Again, this is not a rehash of the old NIAB, for those that remember that, where we try to create a board and vote on projects. This is an opportunity for people to connect and share ideas and work together. We're not getting the resources, of course, to dedicate full-time bodies, but to instead coordinate between offices and leverage the folks who are already working on these tasks to make improvements and innovation. More to come about that in this upcoming FY, so hang on, and we'll hopefully make some announcements here on how we're going to staff this effort. Again, the second goal there, 17, was to create a communication plan. Again, we hope that we'd have a solution in 22. That didn't happen, so the communication plan, again, is a sub-bullet of that will, again, be done in 23. Okay. Goals 18. Goal 18. Establish routine collaboration and sharing of information between severe weather teams in Central, Southern, and SPC. The cross-regional collaboration meeting was held back in October and on December 14th of last year, February 10th and the 8th. The joint calls have led to a discussion, again, on greater use of remote mesoanalysis. And they did some testing in March, and it continues to go on as we're working together across regional lines with SPC, and remote mesoanalysis is being looked at in a larger way across the Weather Service beyond Central Region. Also in collaboration category, explore potential improvements in shared Central and Southern Region methodologies for forecasting winter weather, precip, type, and amount. That was completed with the Forecast Builder version 10, which was put out in November of 2020. That was one of those that was taken care of early in the fiscal year. Additionally, collaboration with the Office of Chief Learning Officer. Again, how do we keep track of all the training and development that's happening between offices, between regions, between the national training content? And they got together and came up with a solution. The calendar is shared on Central Region's home pages. That's often the place where the ROC gets information to post upcoming training, but there is now a unified calendar for all regions to post their training offerings that they're doing for development. You'll see a lot of activity there, again, from Central Region, our guest speaker series, and with the Southern Region science series that they have. Goal 21, we're now on forecast process. Develop a modernized forecast process to promote and organize as new methods of visualizing, understanding, and applying ensemble and probabilistic forecast information. The plan for implementation is complete. You can see the link there. It is heavily focused on the forecast messaging and confidence funnel and probabilistic and ensemble focused AFDs. Keep in mind, this is a growing area for all of us. This is an area where it's going to continue as we move now with 4.1, the discussion of probabilistic and how we message that. Again, a huge collaboration effort. 22, identify best practices from ESTF Okay, the ESTAF GUI was developed up in Aberdeen by Steve Legal, and best practices or further developed and distributed will be distributed in 2023. However, as we move to that probabilistic realm, ESTF discussion on how this is going to fit in are being evaluated on what the return on investment is, if that's a place to continue putting the scientific effort. So right now, again, the goal was accomplished. Will it be going further is discussion for the science staff and the SUE community that's been working on it. 23, develop and share new probabilistic ensemble tool vignettes, and they did that. They have developed a vignette on probability matched mean, was shared in the field in early June, and additional guidance has followed. The milestones complete, and look for continued vignettes again as probabilistic and ensemble forecasting becomes a bigger part of our lives and operations. We got about a third of them left here. 24, again, knowledge, skills, and abilities, facilitate regional training on foundational science topics. Again, the work group completed their report on March 1st, and they are providing training on the ideas of foundational science and the topics and conceptual models. A lot of that's being presented over the guest speaker series along with other opportunities. On item 25, create an inventory of opportunities for overall knowledge sharing and growth. This became a ever-evolving task, because how do you create training for everybody all the time and keep it up to date? It's really very much a national level, but the Southeast MIC community stepped forward with a big push in this area and has been developing training and discussion on career growth, specifically for for the MIC community, but for lead forecasters, also for the CWSU MICs and CWSU staffing. They're also working on the SUE package. But more importantly, this again went from a regional look and integrating with the National Weather Service Training Center and the Office of Chief Learning Officer to help find where do we even put the information, how do we share this? Because it's not training specifically, it's about career development and growth and opportunities. So hats off to the Southeast MIC sub-regional community. They are working on getting this on somewhere on the NWS Insider, probably in the hiring corner pages over the next couple of months. As they complete this task, we will see the fruits of their work, not only on the website, but we'll provide a guest speaker series where they'll introduce the information of what is all there to help meet this goal. 26, increase the number of Central Region employees able to serve as facilitators for the RMA initiative. Again, they onboarded 5 new facilitators in 22. There are more to come. Again, keeping folks ready, and not only again with the RMA for severe weather, but building folks who are there to help with a remote analysis for winter weather and other conditions. Again, over the shoulder, talking in your ear, having the coach in your ear from somebody who's able to not be totally engaged with the current, but see what's happening in a larger picture. Great effort, and we've seen great success with it. Goal 27, sub-seasonal to seasonal IDSS, these 3 goals. Develop an inventory of underserved climate-focused partners and groups. That inventory is complete. Again, that is a hot item still within the Weather Service and within NOAA and with the DOC and our current national goals. That inventory is complete. There's also a needs analysis that's been completed to develop a proposal and accompany the needs assessment for standard suites for sub-seasonal and seasonal IDSS products and services. Again, great progress happening there. And lastly, there was a team built with the Rocky Mountain MIC community to develop a plan to leverage climate SMEs to communicate to core partners new climate information. There is a plan that was developed. Again, we're looking at how do we staff these efforts as we go forward, but again, want to share with you the work that was completed with these goals. Last but not least, goals 30 and 31, underserved populations. Develop an inventory of underserved populations within each local office. Again, that inventory completed. Guidance was made also available for reference. And develop a plan for local offices to engage in public outdoor recreational areas to educate on weather preparedness and promote a weather-ready nation. Final report there is also complete with that information for offices to use. The WCM community, I know, has been shared some of this information and working with it. It's going to take a while to filter down as we take all the data and recommendations and integrate them. It doesn't happen overnight. But again, wanted to highlight the fact that a lot of work and effort's been put into completing these 31 goals these years, and realizing that some of these goals were completed at the base level, but there's always follow-up work. It's not that once you're done, it's implemented, it's there. Again, the experience of all of our roadmaps is we have to continually reflect back on what we did and how we move forward with what we've learned and make changes along the way as we need to. So Jeff, I just went through the 31 goals. I don't know if there's any questions out there, but I'm certainly willing to take questions and answer the mail. And while we're waiting for a couple of questions, I'll just add the comment that, again, doing a presentation like this was one of the outcomes of last year's survey, to be able to share what the completions were and give folks a site to see and have references to information.
Scott, thanks so much for doing the presentation. That's a ton of information, and it never ceases to amaze me just how many initiatives we have going on at the same time. So thanks to your efforts for keeping all that straight. So folks on the line, if you have a question for Scott at this point, it's a great opportunity to interact with him. Go ahead and raise your electronic hand in the interface and I will unmute you. Also, if you want to try it in the chat to enter a question where we can just read that one directly, that would work as well. And if we don't have any pop up in the first 30 seconds or so, what I'll probably do is just unmute everyone right at once. And that way, if they're having any trouble with the interface, they can just straight out ask a question.
Right. And I know this is overwhelming and fast. And if you are uncomfortable, you can always feel free to reach out to me one-on-one and ask questions.
So at this point, Scott, I'm not seeing any hands being raised. Is there anything that you're kind of thinking as a focus area for FY23 without committing to anything at this point for the FY23 AOP?
Again, the big thing I'll say is KENS 3, you know, and particularly people is going to be a big part of it. We're going to continue on this cultural push. I think people will be very enthused by what's going to happen with the organizational health blueprint actions within each office across sub-regional communities. Had a great meeting with the Central Region culture team yesterday, and how do we support this and support the offices, again, to address the people needs. And I know science and services are going to keep moving as we look at Ken's Big 10, Ken Graham's Big 10, and I'm sure you're going to see a direct tie to those Big 10, which again are found on the NWS Insider, and know that's the way we're going. I guess the last thing I'll say on that one, Jeff, is again, the roadmap is being rewritten to give the vision, the outcomes, and ways of measuring success, not just at the regional level, but at the office level. And we really hope folks are more engaged in seeing how they can add value locally, sub-regionally, regionally, and nationally.
All right, Scott, well, at this point, I don't see any raised hands or anything in the chat. So just going to kind of, we had thought we were going to get a 2-for-1 today. We thought we were going to have 2 speakers, and that was our original plan. It appears as though Alex is unable to join us today, so we will look at getting her rescheduled for discussing social media and accessibility. So unless there are any other questions at this point, I want to thank everybody for joining us on a busy weather day across the region, and we'll go ahead and wrap up the webinar. All right, thanks so much, everybody.